Hello, math makers. Thank you for coming to another lesson, part two actually, of break apart bigger numbers to subtract. I appreciate you coming today. You're making math a little bit easier just by showing up. So I appreciate you being here. After yesterday's lesson, or part one's lesson, I noticed a few things with my class that seemed to give a little trouble. And today, I hope with our practice to talk about those few things and maybe make it to where you aren't making those same mistakes that we were too. So, with that being said, I've got about 5 questions I want to practice with you guys today. Hopefully, we'll have time for all 5. And hopefully, by doing those with us, you'll will find this to be a little bit easier as well. That's the hope, at least. So, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with a couple of easy ones, of course, just to get you warmed up. And then we're going to move into some that are hopefully going to make you think a little bit while you're working them with us. So let's get started. Our first one is going to be 88 minus 25. Now, again, what's the first thing we do? Our strategy for this lesson is breaking apart bigger numbers to subtract. So we're going to have to break apart a number. Now, the question is, do I break apart the minuend or do I break apart this subtrahend? Hopefully you're saying the subtrahend. And what do I break it into? That's right, a 20 and a 5, because we have a 20 for the tens and a 5 in the ones. So next, we are going to subtract, and we are going to subtract our tens first. We're going to subtract 20 from 88. So we're going to take away 20 from 88. Now, in our class, we talk about just moving up the hundreds chart, and we've practiced that so many times. We know what we're talking about, because when you move up the hundreds chart, you're actually getting a little bit smaller because the numbers get smaller. So we're going to subtract 20 from 88. That's 2 tens. That's 2 jumps up. So we're going to jump up. We're going to jump twice. So we're going to go from 88 to 78 to 68. That's right. Hopefully you got that correct. Now, are we done? No, we're not. We subtracted the 20. But we still have to get the 5. So when we get to this point where we have to subtract the ones place, we always have to ask ourselves, do I have to regroup? Do I need to break that number apart? And I'll compare that number to the ones place of the minuend, the larger number. And since 8 is larger than 5, I don't have to break it apart, and I can keep going. So I'm going to keep subtracting, and I'm going to go to 68 minus 5. Now, this is one of the places where we made a mistake. We didn't know what to go to next, or where do we subtract from, and we always start where we left off. So we had already subtracted 88 minus 20, and we stopped at 68, which means we're going to start where we left off, which means we're going to start at 68. So now we're going to subtract 68 minus that 5, count down 5 times, 67, 66, 65, 64, 63. That's right. So since we've subtracted both our 20 and our 5, that means our answer is 63. Let's do another one. 76 minus 52. So on 76 minus 2, again, what's the first step we make? We break apart the subtrahend. We break apart the smaller number. And when I break 52 apart, what 2 numbers do I get? 50 and 2, because I have 52, 5 tens, 2 ones. And then we're going to subtract. And what do I subtract first? Always the tens, at least when we're doing numbers in this size. So we're going to subtract 76 minus 50. That's 5 tens. So we're going to do 5 jumps. So we're going to start at 76, and we're going to jump 5 times. We go 66, 56, 46, 36, 26. That is correct. So 76 minus 50 is 26. Now, are we done? No. We still have to subtract the ones. We've only done the tens. And we have to, of course, compare this number to the ones and the subtrahend. If the larger number, the ones place there, is larger than this, we do not have to break it apart, and we can keep subtracting. Now, of course, the question is, where do I start subtracting from? I start where I left off. And I left off at 26. So I'm going to subtract 26 minus 2. I'm taking the 2 away from where I left off. 26 minus 2, count down twice. 25, 24. Very good. So 76 minus 52 equals 24. Now, is your math brain getting warmed up a little bit? It's time to go up just a little bit more. So let's keep on moving up. 77 minus 39. What's the first thing we do? We break apart the subtrahend, and we had the subtrahend is 39, so we break it into 30 and a 9 again. And then now it's time to subtract. And what do we subtract first? The tens place. So we're going to subtract 77 minus 30. Again, that's 3 tens to make 30. We're going to jump 3 times. We go from 77 to 67, 57, 47. That's right. Now, of course, we're not done yet. We still have to subtract the ones place. So I'm going to subtract the ones place. And again, where do I start from? What am I subtracting it from? I'm going to go where I left. Oh, wait, no, I don't do that yet. I have to figure out, do I break the 9 apart? I almost got ahead of myself. So I compare the numbers. I have a 1 in the tens place of the minuend, and I have a 9 over here. Well, 7 is not as large as 9. This is bigger, so I have to break that 9 apart. Now the question is, how do I break that 9 apart? I can make 9 in a lot of different ways. We always use that ones place to figure out. And since that ones place is a 7, I'm going to break it into a 7 and 2, because 7 plus 2 is 9. Now I can subtract, and I start where I left off. So I left off at 47, and I'm going to take 7 from that. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to eliminate the ones and make it easier to work with. And 47 minus 7 is 40. And I've only done the 7, and of course I still have to subtract the 2, because I don't want to forget that. And again, I'm going to start where I left off. So I'm going to subtract, I left off at 40 here, so now I'm going to subtract 2 from 40. Count down twice. And if I count down twice, I have 39, 38. That's right. And since I've subtracted my 30, my 7, and my 2, I've subtracted everything. That means that 77 minus 39 must be 38, because that's where I left off. That's where I stopped. Let's do another one. 65 minus 17. Again, our strategy for this lesson is breaking apart. So I'm going to break apart a number. Am I going to break apart the minuend or the subtrahend? The subtrahend, that's right. And how am I going to break 17 up? A 10 and a 7, because I have 1 10 and 7 ones. So I'm going to subtract the 10s first. So I'm going to subtract 65 minus 10. And 65 minus 10, that's just one jump. So 65 minus 10, that's real easy, is 55. I just moved up once. And of course I'm not done. I've only done the 10s. I have to do the ones, and I need to figure out, do I break the 7 apart or can I keep it? I have to compare it to the ones place and the minuend. And the minuend there, the ones place is a 5, which is not as big as 7, which means I can't take 7 away from it. I'm going to have to break it apart. Now remember, what's our rule? We look where to find out how to break it. We look at the ones place, and we have a 5 in the ones place. So I'm going to break apart that 7 using a 5. And what goes with 5 to make 7? 2. That's correct. Now I can subtract these numbers. So again, I start where I left off. I left off up here at 55. So I'm going to subtract 55 minus 5. And of course, we're just getting rid of the ones. So 55 minus 5 equals 50. Now I've got that 5. I still have another number left. I don't want to forget that. So I'm going to subtract that next. And I'm going to start where I left off. I left off at 50, and 50 minus 2, I count down twice, 49, 48. I've subtracted my tens. I've subtracted my ones, which means 65 minus 17 must equal 48. And that is correct as well. So we have one more to do. We're going to practice together, and then we're going to be done. And hopefully you are ready to do some more of these on your own. Our last one today is 94 minus 68. Again, tell me, what do I do first? I break apart a number. That's right. Now, which one do I break apart? The minuend or the subtrahend? The subtrahend. That's right. So I'm going to break 68 into two numbers. What are my two numbers? 60 and 8. That is correct because it's 68. So now I'm going to subtract the tens. And what's the tens? 60. So 94 minus 60, that's 6 jumps. So I have 6 jumps. So let's count 6 times. I'm going to jump backwards 10 times. 84, 74, 64, 54, 44, 34. That's 6 times. So now, of course, that takes care of my tens. I've got to compare my ones. So I'm going to compare that 8 to the ones place in the minuend. And the minuend, the ones place is 4. That is 8. 8 is larger than 4, which means I have to break it up. And I'm going to break it up with a 4. So what plus 4 equals 8? 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So now I'm going to subtract. And again, where do I start with? What am I subtracting from? 34, that's right, because I'm going to start where I left off. I left off at 34. I'm going to go to 34 again. So 34 minus 4 is 33, 32, 31, 30. And then that takes care of this one, and I'm going to subtract 4 again because I have two 4s. Again, I'm starting where I left off. I left off at 30. So I'm going to start there, and 30 minus 4 is 26. That's right. I've subtracted my tens and my ones, which means 94 minus 68 must equal 26. And it does. I hope this helps, guys. Thank you so much, math makers, for showing up today and getting a little bit better and making math easier for you. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.